Ziad Paracha is a renowned presenter and helps people become modernized in this era of digital transformation. With over 12 years of experience in multiple industries, Ziad pursues his passion for technology at Encore Business Solutions, and it's a gold partner of Microsoft. He brings value to his immediate colleagues, hundreds of global clients, and interactive networks. Outside of being an expert in snacking while working from home, Ziad is a serial entrepreneur and has founded and scaled, founded and scaled many startups, businesses internationally, including several not-for-profits, construction companies, healthcare technology and data analytical corporations, and a consultancy firm. During his free time, you will find Ziad literally climbing new peaks in the mountains of Kananaskis, Alberta. Did I pronounce that correct, Ziad?
Kananaskis.
Oh, sorry about that. Kananaskis. It's hard to read when you're in a hospital bed. Anyway, Ziad, you're on.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. It's good seeing you all. You guys are all looking great on video there. Good to see that we've got a whole bunch of people interested in learning more about some of the tools and technologies out there. Particularly one that I am passionate about is more around Microsoft Teams. It's nice seeing everybody kind of get used to it as well. So I'm going to share my my screen next to kind of walk you through what Microsoft Teams is all about and some of the other applications you may have within your Office 365 environment, should you have Office 365. And it's a free application to use, as you can see. None of you guys have to pay anything to get into this meeting either. And there's a whole bunch of other advantages that you would have from Microsoft Teams that you not necessarily would have as a corporation, that you would as a nonprofit, as well as some perks and added functionality that you would have using Microsoft Teams that you can't really have with any other type of product like Zoom or Slack and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to share my screen, and then you guys let me know if you can see what I'm sharing. Can you guys see that? Okay, perfect. So this basically is the online portal. What that means is if you had an Office 365 license, so whether that be Office 365 Home or any licenses that you may have, you would have access to this portal, and all you have to do is go to office.com and just log in, and you should have all these applications that are included in your license. Now, these are some of the more prominent ones that are there that I use on a daily basis, but if I wanted to go under all applications here, I could see a whole bunch of other applications that are also included within your license for free. So that includes other ones like bookings or access, other security kind of details that I may have, some whiteboarding tools as well, dashboarding capabilities if I wanted to create reports that are online and virtual, and visualization tools for analytics and things like that, as well as all the other apps that are not only integrated but a part of this suite, such as Sway, which is kind of a second to PowerPoint, if you will. Power Apps, which is basically the ability for you to create no-code applications, so you don't have to be a coder of any sort to create applications. Some of the really cool applications I've actually set up here are things like, connect my data to something else, and I can actually have an application that I sent out, and people can book me to present at various events and so on and so forth as well. And then same thing with other tools like OneDrive, and which is a storage device that's also included. So there's literally, more than 30 different applications that are included for one Office 365 license. Now, depending on your license, you would get the online version or the on-premise downloadable application, and obviously there's some added benefit of having the application downloaded on your desktop, but you also do get the ability to download this app on your phone. So if you download the Teams app on your phone, you can actually join meetings and so on and so forth. Now, I know I see a couple of you guys have actually joined, or just I think saw one person join using their mobile phone, using the toll-free number that was there, and so that's another way you can join and be part of the same meeting as well. So for today's presentation, because most of us are going to be online anyways, I'm going to show you guys the online environment. So if I click Teams, it opens up a new tab in the same window and launches the Microsoft Teams environment. And this could be launched on any web browser, whether it be and any device. So whether it be a tablet, a Mac, a PC, a mobile phone, like I mentioned, and so on and so forth. And that gives you the option to either open it on a window tab app. The reason it says that is because I already have the app downloaded on my toolbar. But I'm going to go with the online version. Oh, it's just reloading. I'm just going to go with the online version to show you guys the presentation for today's sake as soon as it starts loading on me. Okay, let's try that one more time.
When you say online version, you mean the browser?
That's right, the browser version. So you can open it on any web page so long as you have internet connection. I'm not sure what it's going to say here. Let's sign out and sign back in real quick. And that's probably because I've had it on for quite some time. It might have timed out on me. So give me 30 seconds while I log back into the environment. Okay. Like any great presenter, this is the first time this is happening. I'm not sure why it's doing that. To open a web app, you need to change your browser settings to allow third-party cookies. That should have been allowed anyways.
Teddy, stop.
All cookies, there we go, and refresh, please.
Yeah, Davidson, I think we're getting a little bit of ambient sound from your location. Thank you, much better.
All right, so I'm in the system. So if we go into the Teams application, this is basically what you would see if you've got the application online. Now, all of you guys are just joining the meetings online, and you're in the meeting environment. I'll show you that interface as well. But basically, this is the main page. So it's much different than any page you can see on Zoom or Slack because it's so integrated and has so much functionality. Now, I've enabled a lot of the features here to show us most of what's there, but I'll go into the admin portal as well if we have some time near the end of our session and show you how you can turn on and off some certain settings. For example, some of the settings that we have in terms of our internally is to enable or disable people from creating new projects and new teams internally, or and having monitoring or hosting of the functionality and things like that. So let me walk you through what this looks like. So the first tab here is the activities ribbon here, and that basically shows you anytime somebody mentions your name. Think of this as a notifications toolbar for anytime someone maybe mentions your name, like Alex here was mentioned, so you would have had a notification, or if someone responded to a thread that you started, or someone puts a comment that's regarding yourself, and you can filter these through different types of settings as well, like if you wanted to filter through read activities versus unread activities, important messages, so on and so forth. As well as you can change the way you get notifications, right? So do you want to just be able to get a banner style or an email and a banner, right? So that means you get a notification pop up on your phone and in an email, so on and so forth, right? So you can actually update depending on how you want to create those settings. Now, to get this granular in terms of settings and being able to have that freedom to customize your own kind of environment, it's something that again is not available for something like Zoom, for instance. right? And same thing, you can change those settings towards calls. So there is actually the ability for you to have a professional phone number associated with your Teams environment. That means that you'll have VoIP capabilities, so you can actually dial in and out using a phone number that's different than your personal device as well. And of course, you can configure voicemail settings and things like that as well. So this as a solution is a fuller solution that not only entails the communication part of things, but it's a larger solution than that. Then if we go down to our chat feature here, this is where you can really have conversations that are more one-on-one. You can have group conversations as well. So if let's say, for instance, wanted to create a new chat, you click this pencil button right here, and let's say I wanted to talk to Alex. So I search up Alex, and I didn't type the full name, just a wildcard search, and you can see that his contact card actually pulls out. And so if I click Alex, then you can synchronize your contacts here to be able to do that. I can type him a message, say, hey, Alex, long time no see. Right? So if I message him, Alex receives that message. It shows a verification that that message has been delivered. And when he sees it, there's going to be actually a little bit of an icon that comes up right beside it that shows that Alex has actually seen the message that has been delivered to him. As well as, not only that, we can actually share and collaborate on files. So if I wanted to share files that I have on my OneDrive or other on my local hard drive, or on other things like Box or Dropbox or Google Drive and so on and so forth, you can actually share files and collaborate and co-author those files as well. So if there's a document that we're sharing or a blog article that we're writing, you name it, right? People can actually work together on that same document without having to constantly share versions and be lost in the changes that are made there. I can also see who Alex reports to. So if I look at his contact card, or at least the organizational structure, and you can create this with your Azure Active Directory and things like that as well. So the content's coming from back there, but you can see that Alex works, basically under Miriam. And if I wanted to include Miriam into the conversation along with Alex for whatever reason, I can actually do that as well. Lastly, I can actually add more tabs here as well. So these are connectors basically that connect data and add tabs. So if let's say I'm working on a Power BI report or a PowerPoint presentation often with Alex, I can put PowerPoint here. And you'll notice, I'll just call it PowerPoint for now. And, well, I have no files in this particular location, but if I had files in this chat, I can create PowerPoints here or other tabs that I've created, and we would be able to collaborate on that, and the icons will just show up similar to how these icons are here, just on this top toolbar here. Lastly, outside of the chat functionality with just direct messaging, you can also audio or video call as well. So if I wanted to audio call Alex, you can see I just click the button, and of course, if I allow the settings, I'm not going to so that it doesn't interrupt our current meeting. So, but if you were to, it would be as quick as, allowing that call to set up, and your mics and stuff are going to be set up, and so on and so forth. And you would then be able to continue that conversation. Same thing with video. Now, if I wanted to add, like I mentioned, Miriam into the same conversation, I can just go here and type in the name, so Miriam. And we can see that now Miriam is also going to be part of this conversation. So Alex and Miriam are both in this conversation. And I can have a conversation on the side with them as well. Now, one of the things to note is if I actually hover over their names, you can actually see their status. So whether they are offline or available, if you look at my status, I'm in a meeting currently, right, which I am. And you can actually change these statuses depending on who you are. So you can always see the availability of somebody based on that status as well. So that's the chat functionality. Within this chat functionality on the bottom side here, you can actually do a whole bunch of other tools as well, such as write an email message or format it in an email format, have all the functions there as well for it. Make it an urgent message and or send an attachment. Similar idea, you can attach it to from your OneDrive or other cloud storage devices. There's some emojis that you can share because we all know how much we love these, as well as some GIFs and fun stuff as well, right? So if we wanted to, scroll down and search a whole bunch, there's actually search capabilities as well. If we wanted to add a couple of these really cool GIFs, we can also do that and send that in an email. as well as there's stickers and other components. And again, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can add, like YouTube videos, or if you want to have trends on the stocks market, some news, anything else, weather. There's all these other apps that you can integrate to your chat box besides just sending a message, right? You can send a whole bunch of other information as well, all related to anything like this. But let's not jump here yet. I'll show you guys what this is in a little bit. So back to that chat. I can also schedule a meeting. So if I wanted to schedule a meeting with Alex and Miriam, for whatever reason the conversation is dragging along, I want to maybe perhaps set up a meeting, and we can set up a time and a meeting with them. You can notice they're automatically created here straight from the chat. I didn't actually have to go to Outlook or something else to use this. I can create the meeting through Microsoft Teams, and you'll have that same detail, the link that you guys had when you guys joined this meeting, with the contact information, so on and so forth, all come down into the meeting invite when I send this email. And of course, I can look at now their calendars as well, right? So I can see who's available when and what's a better time to do it, and so on, the meeting, and so on and so forth, right? And if you go into scheduling assist, that will do that for you. So based on their availability and their statuses and their calendars, which are synced to your Microsoft Teams, you can see when someone's available and when a better time is to book a meeting. So for example, this time works for everybody, whereas here it doesn't work because someone has a meeting. Well, I have a meeting and I'm unavailable at this time, right? So you can book that meeting accordingly. Any questions so far about the activities, notifications, and or the channels page? No, we're all on board so far? Okay. I don't see any raised hands either, so that's good. All right, moving on. As you can see, there's contacts here as well that I haven't created yet, but you can basically create a contact group of some sort. And of course, that way when you message out, whether it be mass emails or you want to send out a message to all those contacts, you can as well. And then if you go into the Teams functionality, this is where the meat of this application is really, in my opinion, because this is where you can actually generally create projects. So there's different teams that you can create, whether it be project based. So if you're running a project together and there's a number of people that need to be a part of that team, you can have department wise. So if you wanted to have it based on departments, you can have it, you know, a water cooler type activity where, you know, there's only a fun type of conversation, some groups. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can create team. And the way you do that is you just click this icon here. And generally speaking, you can create any team. You can also allow people to search for that team if it's a public team by entering a code. And I'll show you what that means. So if you built a team, and you can do it from scratch or from an existing team, but let's build it from scratch just to show us what we're all about. There's private, public, and organization-wide teams. Private teams are basically teams where you want to have an invite only to be able to join that team. Public teams is what I was talking about, where you can actually share a code or invite someone through a link and they can join the team at any time and be a part of that conversation. And the organization-wide are more internal. So depending on how you want to set this up, sometimes you might want to have just onboarding processes or conversations and discussions within your own organization. That's what this team is really for. So let's, for our purpose, create a public team. Or actually, you know what, we'll do a private team just so I can show you what that looks like. So we give ourselves a name. And you know, we'll just call it, you know, my team. So if I create this, it takes about a few seconds to create a team, and that's it. It's created. You can see it's actually right here. Now I can actually add members from here, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to skip this step for a second and show you how I can add members here. So there's my team, and there's my icon and everything. You can change it, all these settings. There's an automatic general tab that gets created that I can manage as well, right? And then you can also create and add more channels as well. So if I wanted to add a channel, and what these channels are great for is basically dividing the conversation up. So you can have a general tab and then others, you know, small conversations here and there. But let's say we create this this channel for whatever reason on, I don't know, talking about our project that we're going to do on July the 4th, okay? Even though it's a holiday. But anyways, we set this up and we can set up privacy settings. So this would be standard, means anyone on this team can access it. So anyone that's in my entire team, so if I have 20 people on the team, can access it. Or I can allow a private access. So maybe the only people that want to be on here are maybe just myself and Peter, right? And so we can just have 2 people from the entire team join it. For this case, I'm going to make it standard, but again, you can make it specific to the members on that team. And let's add that, and you can see that channel will pop up in a few seconds based on my internet connection right here. Now, if I wanted to add more people, because right now I have no people on this team, so let's say if I wanted to add a member. So I go into add member, again, that window pops up, and who was I talking to? I'm talking to Alex, so I want Alex on my team, and I want Miriam on my team. And you know what, because I'm nice, I'm also going to invite Deborah. Okay. Click add. They are now on the team. Now I can change their security settings here. So this is where I was talking about, where you can actually create co-owners and co-hosts and so on and so forth. You can do that starting from within each meeting as well. So let's say Miriam, because you know she's the boss, I can make her the owner of this channel, and she can manage and do all the admin settings that are required and so on and so forth from here. And I close that. And that's it. Now they are now part of my team. So I can now actually look at, if we go manage teams into the settings, and I can see who is the owner. I made Miriam the owner along with myself, so we're both owners. And then all the other guests and members. So like you guys in this meeting, you're all invited as guests because you're external to my organization, right? And then you can also see people who are trying to join. There's no pending request now, but who want to join the meeting. Maybe it's a membership or something like that that they've all qualified for. It will allow them in. You can see all the channels that are created that I've already created. We can, from here, see also the deleted channels and stuff, but there aren't none so far. You can also see other settings that you can change, such as, you know, add a team picture, you know, modify the member permissions, so guest and member permissions. So like I mentioned, you guys have no permissions basically right now to control the meeting that I'm hosting, right? As well as guest permission. So can they do anything in this particular site? We're not allowing that as well, but you can. And then the team code as well. So if we generate a team code, this is basically the code that you will put in. For example, if I copy that and I search a code here, I can then join this team, right? Amongst other ways of using that code, but that's basically what it's for. As well as now from these settings, I can also see analytics. So I can see who's done what. So I've added 4 users. There's 6 apps that we've created, how many files we've shared, and the history of who are active and not, who's attended meetings and not, what's the engagement look like in this team. And these are all created through Power BI dashboards that are integrated with teams that you basically did not even have to pay for. It's already included. Lastly on this are apps. So we've added some basic apps in here as well, but we can search for more apps and integrate it within our thing. For example, if we take notes, we can use OneNote and share all the meeting minute notes and agendas and so on and so forth. Planner to assign tasks. We can even share and integrate other tools like that as well. You name it, YouTube, anything. There's like hundreds and hundreds of them. I haven't ever run across a problem finding an app that's there. As well, if it's not there, there's times where you can actually custom integrate some of those apps too. So there's ways of collecting that data as well. Now let's say I can either leave this team because it's no longer active. I can hide this team, and if I hide this team, it shows up down here so that it's not, you know, convoluting the projects I'm actively working on. Or I can just delete the team because we're no longer going to use it. So I understand that all the data is going to be deleted. And if, let's say, I do that and it was an accident, your data doesn't actually go away. It's stored in a backup in your SharePoint online, and you can you know, revive that at any time by going to SharePoint, which is also included in your licenses right here. Okay. And if I do that, it's all the same teams, right? So if I go into SharePoint, you'll see all the similar layout with the teams and stuff. Some people actually use this as a corporate strategy of as well. So you can see all the same teams. So marketing is there, right? Leadership team that we had, the marketing team, the project that we were working on, retail, so on and so forth. So all of these teams are these teams here, right? Automatically created. So that's high level what this teams can do. Now, if I go into this more apps or this shape right here, this Mark 8 project, is a team notebook where I can take notes and message and so on and so forth. There's and basically share agendas and so on and so forth. Meeting notes that can be taken, right, if I wanted to create automatic templates. And of course, if I go into now the more apps features where you can see all the apps that can be linked with Microsoft Teams, like Trello and like Flow, which is automatic transactions that you can create, YouTube, right? And the list kind of goes on and on. So there's a whole bunch of these applications that are available that you can integrate with your Teams environment. Now, this is something that you cannot do with Zoom at all, and with Slack, there's a limited amount of this. Most of it is actually custom for you to do. So Microsoft has some really great partners, and you can specifically search for which ones you want to look at as well. So that's your Teams, the Teams tab. Okay, and then within the Teams tab, you can obviously post updates, and these updates go for, you can see a whole audit trail of everything that's happened, right? So from me making people team members or team owners, to the conversations that have been shared, the documents that people have collaborated on, and the entire history since this team was created, right? Within that, I can also see all the meetings that took place, and if I had recordings of those meetings, I can actually see the responses. So here's a recording of a meeting that took place, right? There is the whole meeting invite and when it was. So you can see the entire process of how these meetings have taken place as well. So if I wanted to, let's say, work on a doc together, let's say this document that we created a few months ago, you'll notice that the Word document actually opens within the team environment, not in a separate window for that's Word. And all of the functionality that are soon to load here are going to be, functions and features that you can use or have been using on Word in general. Additional to that, you can actually see comments and conversations that you've had. So if I open conversations, this will open up the exact same tab of all the discussions that have taken place around this document. As you can see, there hasn't been much around this topic aside from toilet paper, which was a scary resource up until recently. So that's basically the gist of using documents. And this could be the same thing for any document, whether it be PowerPoint or so on and so forth. And the way I can show you that as well is if I go into files that have been shared, you will notice there's a whole bunch of different types of files that are shared and stored and organized through file folders and so on and so forth, like docs or Excel spreadsheets. Different folders have also different files within it as well, and I can create new ones as well or upload them, right?
Ziad, you were a minute ago, you were showing us the history of that team.
Yep.
Can anybody see that, or only the whole history, or only the owner?
It depends. So anyone can see the general tab because that's where the general conversation is taking place. And then if you want specific people to see specific histories, you can go into these channels, right? So these channels, depending on who you've allowed to be able to join that channel, can only see a certain amount of that conversation. The general one is an update for everybody, though. That's the entire team. Everyone gets updated for that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's generally speaking what that's all about. You can also change these views, right? So I know some people like the way this is organized in a file folder type setting in a list way. You can also see tiles, for instance, and so on and so forth. So depending on how you like to see things, you can rearrange the way that your files show up, and when they were modified, and who they were modified by, and all of those, generally speaking, available here as well. Now let's go into our calendar. So this is integrated with Outlook. Again, didn't have to do any integrations, didn't have to pay a single penny on integrating this to our calendars. It's there right away because of the same tenant. So all of these applications are seamlessly integrated with one another. So if I go into the Outlook calendar, I will actually see the exact same, all the meetings that are taking place, what my calendar looks like, when I'm going for lunch, so on and so forth. And if I go into the Outlook calendar, which is somewhere here as well, I can actually see the same schedule. not only that, I can actually bounce back and forth between Outlook and Teams. So if I wanted to create a new meeting here, it'll show up on my Outlook calendar as well. So it's not like you have to enter in twice or so on and so forth. You can update it based on time zones. Again, add that meeting and join that meeting as well. So for today, I'm not, you know what, I'll do it. So we're going to join a meeting right away. I'm going to be really quick about this. Let's say I want to have a meeting with Deborah. Create that meeting for, okay, I'll remember that date. We don't want to have a recurring meeting, just a meeting, that one-time meeting. You can set up weekly scrums or weekly catch-ups or whatever you want to do, or have a custom repetition on that as well, you name it. Different channels or teams that you're a part of, if you want to create that a public meeting. I'm not going to do that because I just deleted our team that I had created. But you know, let's put it in the general onboarding one that's a hidden team. So I'll show you that. And the location is going to be Teams. But if I wanted to have a physical location, like where I think Gary was driving to or Turner was driving to, you can have locations and different things set up here as well. And you know what we'll do is we'll just write. You can write the agenda here, for example. You can write here, let's chat soon, so on and so forth. You can have the whole message. Let's send that meeting invite, assuming everybody's available, because I've seen the schedule. And the meeting will just pop up right here. Now, a couple ways to join this meeting. You've already known a couple of those ways is through the link or dialing in and so on and so forth. But if you have this team environment, whether it be on the browser or as an application, you can join it directly from this interface, right? So let's say if I wanted to join a team meeting, you go into the meeting, you can see who all is a part of that meeting, who organized the meeting. Where they are, if there's if there's a recurring, where it's located, so on and so forth. So let's go back to our meeting, which for some reason is taking forever. There it is. And I'm just going to join the meeting. For this purpose, I have disabled the audio and video so it doesn't interfere or give us feedback in our meeting that we're on now. And then it asks you if you want to turn on your camera or audio, similar to what you guys have done already. But I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to join the meeting. Okay. Now, when you're in the meeting, this is that toolbar that we were talking about, where you can raise your hand and see the conversation that takes place. The message that I've had there was there as well. We can see who all is a part of that meeting, or people that automatically suggest that, you know, most of the time when you set these meetings up, these guys are also available. And you know what, if I forgot to maybe bring in Patty, I can just say, oh, you know what, Patty, I want you to join this meeting. And Patty's unavailable because she's offline, and you can see she's offline. And so you can actually add people in as well. Let's say, for example, if I forgot to add Alex in, I can go Alex, and it'll actually start calling Alex. It's unavailable, so Alex won't pick up. I can also copy the information of this meeting. So let's say if I wanted to share this meeting, I click this link, and I'm just going to show you that it works by going to this chat and pasting. And you can see the entire meeting invite, without me having to write anything, shows up. So as a link, as well as a conference ID, calling number for the location that number is for. Right? So if you're in Ohio, it'll show up with an Ohio area code and so on and so forth. Okay. And all the other chat functionality is there as well. What else I can do from this show participants is actually, allow people to come into the meeting like you guys and allow you permissions to do that, or disable people to do that. And you do that to the through the team admin portal, which I mentioned to you earlier. In this case, the way our setting is set up internally is that only people who can come into the lobby are people that are in my organization. Of course, you can change those settings as well. And same thing like people who can join or who can present. I can change that to have specific people, only me or people in the organization, so on and so forth. So these are some specific settings to this meeting, but you can have settings that are organizational wide as well that you can create. So a lot more security and compliance, a lot more permissions and access regulations, and it's really the power is in your hand to allow or disallow people to do certain things. You can also from here download an attendance list. So whoever joined this meeting, I can go download attendance list. It'll pop up in an Excel spreadsheet, and I can see who had joined my meeting and what the input was, and so on and so forth. So you can see the timer still on, the video, audio, share screen. So if I go share screen, all of the screens that are open, whether it be different windows or specific desktop screens or monitors, will show up, and I can share that presentation and collaboratively work. That's what I used actually to share the screen that you're seeing now, is the share screen feature. That's similar in most of the applications. The different part is though that you can actually share specific ones, but as well you can whiteboard and using the Microsoft Whiteboard or Envision or other ones that you have as well that you can browse through. So if I go into Whiteboard, this all the participants who would be joining, these guys won't be because they're not actually real people, but they are real. But you can use whiteboards in Teams, for example. You join Whiteboard, and you can now actually, if you have a Surface Pen or any, you can even write with your finger. But basically, you can collaborate together, and that whiteboard can be shared with the rest of the people. So in however way you want to do that. My handwriting is horrible, so I'm not going to do any more than that. But you can kind of see all of the functionality that's included with this particular whiteboard. I could also record the session. So if I record the session, okay, got it. I got to turn on the camera to be able to do that, but that's fine. So now the session is being recorded. And you can see that anything that I do and share will actually be recorded in the conversation as well. And amongst other settings, you can actually have really cool backgrounds. If I had the video on, they'll actually show up with the virtual backgrounds and stuff that you can set up. Other device settings that you can change. See the meeting details, notes that may have been created. You can actually dial in and out as well. So the keypad will allow you to dial in and out of to other people as well. So that's basically the gist of that. So and you can end the meeting, by the way, by either end the recording by either hanging up or ending the recording and then hanging up. I'm just going to hang up for a second. And if I go into my onboarding site, which is where I had the meeting, I can see all the conversation that took place from the meeting to the invite to the time to the recording of the session. Right? That's all within here. And then from here, you can obviously, once the recording is here, because our company policy allows the recording only to be internal. I'm just going to test this one, and hopefully I'm able to bypass some of those settings so I can give you guys this recording. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have this, Peter. I have a question about the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. I assume you can use any tool that converts to a mouse, like a drawing tool, a pen, drawing pen, that sort of thing.
Yep. I personally have a pen myself that I use for the whiteboarding, that's attached to my Surface. So you could use any pen. I've seen people use their tablets. I've seen people they have these trackpad type things that they use, and other people just use their mouse. So. Okay. You can use any of those tools as long as it works with your device. So that's your calendar, your Teams, your chat, your activities. Let's rush through this last little bit for calls where you can actually have contacts. So this is however you want to set up your contacts, but these are all the contacts in our company. These are associated numbers, people that are their names, their entire contact cards, positions. You edit it the way you want. I can add other contacts too, specifically, whether it be internal or external. And of course, it's all searchable, so I can search them by name and see the history and all my voicemails like I showed you. The best thing about these voicemails are they get transcribed as well, so automatically using AI. So if someone leaves you a voicemail and you're in a go, You can just read the transcription of their voicemail, and it's actually fairly accurate, or at least you can make sense out of it for sure, and respond to it via email or a callback. Jay, did you have a question there, or you're just playing around with the raise hand feature?
Oh, I do have a question.
Yeah.
This all looks good. I'm not criticizing this in any way, but what happens if we step across the border to Mexico or to Canada or somewhere in Europe?
This is international. It's a Microsoft product. You can work on it with anywhere. When Office 365 is enabled everywhere. So whether it's online and or offline. So you can actually, if you're, let's say you're working on a document, you only have the online version, which is the browser version. And so you don't have internet on the go. You can actually work on the document still. And when you reconnect to online, everything gets updated. Now, when it comes to other things like corporate settings and things like that, it's a global, this is an international product, right? So you can have, we have client meetings internationally with people in Australia and Europe and you name it, right? Like Mexico, we have clients there as well, in Africa. You know, I think the only place we don't have a client in yet is the Arctic. Does that answer your question, Jay?
Pretty much, it sounds like it. The only thing I'm wondering about is what's the requirements for the hardware as such? Is it all on a similar computer as such? Everybody has kind of the same thing, or is there some kind of position box that matches things up right?
Nope, there is no requirement for hardware outside of a Windows 10 upgrade device.
Okay, that's good.
For laptops, if you've got Windows 10, you're golden. I don't know if, I know there was one person that was still running Windows XP, but it was a quick upgrade that we did for their license. But other than that, I don't think people are still having those kind of licenses anyways. I mean, I still have an MSN account, if that's what you're wondering.
Just fine.
And it works on everything, right? So whether it be an Apple device, a PC, a mobile phone, a tablet, a Surface, whatever, right? Any device, it's compatible with it, as well as it does not matter where you are in the world. That's the whole idea, is so you can, we travel all the time. So I actually use my mobile version quite frequently. So when we used to travel a lot in airplanes, if I could connect to the airplane Wi-Fi, great. If I can't, I just work on the document. When I land and connect to internet or data, it automatically updated all my stuff for me. So I'm not being unproductive at any time during my day. So that's the calling functionality. You can, of course, I don't have it enabled here, but if you have the calling DID plans and things like that, you can actually have a keypad here. It's in our work one, but not this particular environment. Files is the last component here. This is where I promised you that you can update and upgrade, add cloud storages from anything basically. So Box, right? I don't even know. I never use this one. ShareFile, SharePoint, and Google Drive. You name it. So you can have any on-premise or on-cloud storage devices connected to your environment. So you can have any data or document that comes in from basically anywhere, and collaboratively work here in this environment with them. So I've got two connected right now. I can, of course, sign out on those accounts or add other accounts here as well, where I'm sourcing my data to interact with from as well. And then from these apps, you can actually pin them, and I pinned this planner for us, but you can unpin these as well, or pin other applications inside here as well. So if I wanted to, let's say, pin, because I use OneNote a lot, I can just pin this here, and you'll notice OneNote comes up here, and I can actually work and interact with just one click away rather than multiple clicks. That's the gist of the Teams environment, at least, to how interactive this platform is from not only a meetings perspective, but a lot more than that, from a communication, files sharing, storage, editing and co-authoring, additional applications, calling, and calendaring options as well. The last thing I want to show you before I open the floor for any other questions is this search bar here you might have been looking at. So this bar is really cool because it can basically it's basically your personal assistant, if you will. So I'm working from home, and so there's not much, you don't get many secretaries or assistants helping you out in many of the tasks, right? And so You can actually use this to help you out do quite a lot of things as well. For example, if I'm too lazy to go through the hundreds of contacts that I have there, and I want to know maybe who Alex is, all I do, and there was two ways of having commands. One is by using a slash, and you get a whole bunch of these commands, and there's a lot more than this. These are just the common ones. These commands basically do work for you. And so, I mean, let's say if I wanted to figure out who someone is, so if I go who, enter, there's a who bot. It sounds funny, but it's actually an AI bot that's available as a in the environment that basically does work for you. So the who bot will basically search for anyone I'm looking for in the organization. So we talked about Miriam. Let's say I didn't know Miriam. So if I go Miriam and I want to know who is Miriam, so I'll write the whole question. Who is Miriam? This who bot is actually, this is what I'm talking to. This is the 21st century. We can actually talk to bots, and so this bot is going to search for, if I allow him to. Please don't ask me to re-authenticate. There we go. So I didn't understand my query, right? But if I say, well, who is so on and so forth, I can actually search for that person. Maybe let's not search for names. Let's search for an actual task. So let's say knows about marketing or drones, right? Whatever. Let's say anything that I want to know, because I know Miriam, I think, was related to marketing as well. And I say, okay, well, who knows about marketing? Tell me someone who knows about marketing. Says, oh, there is. There's Miriam. Miriam knows about marketing. She's in fact the director of marketing. Same with Emily and Megan, who are also, people who have either posts or been mentioned around the topic of marketing. So I can search for topics within this that allows me to talk to something, and so on and so forth. Now, what can this whobot do outside of that? Well, who is so-and-so, who knows about something, this is what I searched for, or who reports to anyone, right? Who was in the meeting that I was in, right? Anything like that. Who have I messaged about? Maybe you had a topic that you messaged someone about, 2 weeks ago, and you're old like myself, and so you can't remember. And so you go to this bar and you say, well, who was I talking to about marketing the other day? And that'll search up all the people that you talked to marketing about. And help you locate that conversation. And then there's obviously other search capabilities as well outside of the who one. And if you go to mentions, for example, which is the @ here, you can have other things as well, like praising people or telling people they've done a really great job. You can search other types of commands from here as well. And then, of course, this is also a general toolbar. So if you don't have commands, you can just generally search stuff here as well that are within the team sites as well. So any content and things like that. Basically the Google of Microsoft Teams and everything that's entailed inside. That's all I have for you right now. Any questions? Any other hands that are up there?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
So where does this fit in as far as Team versus Skype?
Good question. So Skype is also owned by Microsoft. Skype actually has been abandoned by Microsoft, and so now it's been adopted into Microsoft Teams. So Teams is the Skype actually lives inside of Teams, and the functionality of calls that you see here, the calls in the instant messaging, are actually built off of the Skype for Business functionality that's there. So Skype doesn't exist anymore, really. It's actually not being supported by Microsoft in any way. All the love is being shared with Microsoft Teams, and Teams is where the functionality of Skype is embedded into, or has been adopted into.
So
Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it sounds like they took that technology and put it in Teams.
Yep.
When are they going to stop providing it in Windows then?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
When are they going to stop providing that application in Windows?
They don't really provide it, so you can actually get it standalone. I mean, you can still create accounts and still have Skype, and mostly it's just personal use. But from a business perspective, Skype is actually not a license that's there anymore in any of the licenses that are coming up.
When I tried to use it, it didn't seem to work anyway yesterday.
Yeah, so they've it's a little more glitchier than it used to be, and I'm not sure if Microsoft is doing that purposely, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I don't see any raised hands.
After we get the, if there's any questions about the functionality here, if you could talk about how this can benefit nonprofits. I think we have quite a few leaders, ex-leaders, hopefully future leaders of the organization present.
Sure. Edwin and Michael, I think, have a question. So maybe I'll reach out to Edwin first, and maybe I'll address your concern there as well, Peter. Edwin?
Yeah, my question is more, now I noticed that you were, doing most of your team building under the chat. Am I correct there?
What do you mean by team building?
Well, when you were creating your teams under the team logo or the chat logo, were you creating most of these teams that you were working with?
No, so these teams can be created by joining or creating the team down here. So if you go into the Teams tab here, then click here, you can create a new team under this environment. But if you wanted to create a team or a separate conversation, then you go into this chat functionality. But within the team, within each team, there is also the ability for you to have that conversation, because obviously teams need to be able to communicate and chat. And so those chat functionality and features are also here as well.
Yeah, because I'm getting ready to edit my book. I'm just wondering if I could create a connection with my marketing team and my editing team to work together.
Absolutely. So that's where you can, if you create this team, and if you go into manage teams or add a member, you can actually, even if they don't have an Office 365 account, you can actually add their email here. So long as they have a Microsoft supported email like Hotmail or MSN I mentioned, right? Like all these other ones that are out there, Outlook, so on and so forth, Yahoo. If you add those in there and you go add, that individual will now be a part of this team, and you can manage those. So if we're going to manage team, you can see who all is part of that team, and they can edit and collaborate and work together to write that book or edit that book.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. Michael, you had a question?
Yeah, this toolbar sits at the bottom of the window. What you're presenting. Is there a way to move that around someplace so it's not covering parts of it up?
Which toolbar are we talking about here?
With the microphone, the camera,
Oh, mine? The toolbar that I have, like on my screen?
No, the one on ours.
That
might be on your own screen.
If it's on your own screen, you should just hover away from it. It should go away. If it doesn't go away, you might be on full screen mode.
Even when I get off the screen, it doesn't go away. Out of the window. It doesn't go out of mine either. But I was wondering, when somebody's showing a presentation and slides and stuff, they're going to be using that full window, and so this will be covering up part of the slide we can't see.
I think it might be actually doing that because I'm recording the session. But if I stop recording, I think it would go away, because typically what would happen, and that's what was happening before, is, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If you go into any of the meetings, the toolbar actually is not there. So let's say if I join that meeting again real quick for you. And yeah, I don't want any audio or video.
Yeah, no, it's not there, but I want how can I move it on my screen is what I want to know.
Right, so I don't think you can move it outside of, it should just disappear on its own. And if it's not, I'm not sure why that one wouldn't be happening. Usually if you just scroll away from it, it disappears, and then see, like mine has disappeared. And then if I go back to it, it comes back on. And if I move and don't move the mouse again for a little while, it disappears.
If you go off, if you go off the toolbar and click anywhere off the toolbar, it will drop off.
Yeah, you just have to not move the mouse as much again, and then when you move the mouse again to go on the toolbar, it comes back on. So It disappears on its own.
Sometimes it does, but not all the time. This time it doesn't seem to. But yeah, I have seen it disappear sometimes. But I was wondering if there's a way to move it in different parts of the screen, because sometimes in the slide presentations the header is, especially the header right area, is small and doesn't have much you want to be viewing. But can we change and relocate or change the size on this toolbar?
I don't think so. Not yet, at least. There are some more upgrades that are coming. Maybe comes in the near future, but not that I've seen. No.
Okay, thanks.
Will
Yep.
Teams work on a Linux computer?
Yes, it will.
It would. Okay, good.
Yeah.
It well, it works on a Linux computer. Would it have to be in the browser mode, or could it be the application mode on a Linux computer? Both. Okay.
Any other questions right away? Okay, so Peter asked about nonprofit advantages. So nonprofits get a few different advantages, one being around the pricing. So obviously the pricing for licenses itself is cheaper for nonprofits than it is for business or corporates. In addition to that, you also have a few other added benefits in the way that you set up your teams and the environment for it, and a little bit of the lookout. It's very similar to this, but you actually can do other added services as well, specific to the nonprofit, or even education for that matter, as well. On that note as well, you also still have the same level of security and access and things like that that you would get. So there's no functions, no features take away. In fact, it's added for nonprofits and education institutes. And the biggest deal really is the licensing. Like, the licensing really makes it a lot easier for you to be able to afford it. And have the product. Now, just to give you an idea, this product from a corporate standpoint, at a minimum, I think it starts at $4 per user per month, and that's the Essentials online version of things. And that would be if and you don't just get Teams, by the way. Like I mentioned, you get a number of these applications for that amount, including Outlook and so on and so forth. So at $4 per user per month for the most basic standard licensing, you can get. This includes some material for training as well. So if you either go into these tips and tricks, or there's some training within Teams, and I'll show you, you can actually get some really cool up-to-date content for learning. And you can do the same thing if you go help or something like that, and you go into topics for training or what's new, things like that. So if I write what's new, it'll actually share. Teams will share all the new updates and upgrades that have happened automatically because it's online within this environment, and how I can, how I know, for example, now Teams is free to meet now certain features, what the group chat size is, and all these different things that are there are updates that have already happened, such as first it went from a 3 to 3, now you can see 7 to 7 grid. On video, and per date when these updates have happened. So that's one. And then if you go into the training material, you can actually see resources that are there, videos and articles and so on and so forth, that are included for free for you to be able to access, view, and play around with, share, so on and so forth. And that's all. So if you ever get lost or confused, not only do you have me to help you out, but you also have some self-learned tools as well that you can search within the environment without having to go to Google. So that's all included for non-for-profits as well. Any last few questions before I stop sharing? No? Y'all want me to go away?
No, don't want you to go away. you can probably end the recording, but you don't need to go away. We really appreciate this. Thank you very much. I know you spent a lot of time preparing for this, and we could. I'm glad that we could count on you to give the presentation. We've had a couple of people just no shows, but and thank you for being someone we could count on.
Absolutely. And like I say, if you guys have any questions around this stuff, just shoot me I know Peter and I, you can talk over phone, but shoot me a message on email or share my contact, my LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, or anything of such, as well as if you need help with licensing or setting this team's environment up for you guys and configuring it or in any way, shape, or form, let me know, and I can, I'll do my best to show you guys not only the licensing stuff, but also how we can implement other things as well, for non-for-profits and other personal uses, so on and so forth.